Tractate Machshirin, General Introduction. Tractate Machshirin deals with a basic rule of Tuma, namely, that a food cannot become tameh unless it had first become wet with one of the 7 liquids: water, wine, bee honey, olive oil, milk, dew, blood. The process of a food becoming wet is called hechsher, which means preparation, because it prepares the food for tuma. When hechsher takes place, we say that the liquid is machshir, the food, literally prepares. The liquid is called a machshir, literally preparer. The plural of machshir is machshirin, which provides our tractate with its name. Sources in the Torah. The Torah states the hechsher requirement in 2 places. In Vayikra 11, in Vayikra chapter 11, verse 34, it is written, "Of any food that is edible, upon which water comes, shall be tameh," etc. The verse means that only food upon which water comes can become tameh. Thus, if food had become wet, it is able to become tameh. Otherwise, it remains tahor. See the Rashi there. The hechsher requirement also appears in verse 38 there. But if water is placed on a seed and part of their carcass falls upon it, it is tameh to you. That is, if water came into contact with an edible seed, and then part of a dead sheretz, a source of tumah, falls upon the seed, the sheretz makes the seed tameh. The implication is that the seed becomes tameh only because it had previously been in contact with water. Satisfaction. Most of the Mishnahs in this tract deal with a single rule, namely that a liquid cannot be machshir of food unless its wetting of the food pleases, or at least satisfies, the food's owner. The rule is derived from the second verse quoted above, if water is placed on a seed. Excuse me. If water is placed on a seed. The word yutan is written yud, taf, nun sofid in the Torah, without the letter vav between the yud and the tav. This spelling yud taf nun sofid is usually read yitain, which means he places. Read this way, the word implies that food becomes prepared for tuma only if the owner actively places water on it. On the other hand, the oral tradition tells us to read this word yutan as though a vav were present, which means it is placed. This version of the word implies that food becomes prepared for tuma even if the water gets there by itself without the owner's involvement. The 2 readings thus contradict each other. The first indicates that the owner must place the water on the food, while the second indicates that this is not necessary. The Gemara in Kedushin 59b, Baba Metzia 22b, resolves the contradiction as follows. We learn from Yutan, it is placed, that even if the owner did not place the water on the food becomes prepared for Tuma. But we learn from Yiten, he will place, that the manner in which the water reaches the food must be somewhat comparable to the owner putting it there. He must therefore be pleased with the fact that food became wet, for just as a person is pleased with the wetting that occurs when he actively places water on the food, so too, the wetting that occurs without his involvement must please him. See Rav Mishnah 1:1, see Rashi the Baba Metzia there. There is another aspect to the satisfaction requirement. One must be pleased that the liquid came into being, because he intended to use it for some purpose. For example, he wanted rainwater to fall on his utensils and wash them. Mishnah 1, chapter 1, Mishnah 1 with Rav. There is a basic dispute among the Rishonim concerning this aspect of the satisfaction requirement. According to Rambam, Hilchos Tumas Ochalin, chapter 12:3, a liquid can affect hechsher only if both aspects of satisfaction are present. That is, one is pleased with the liquid itself and is pleased that it wet his food. However, most Rishonim hold that it is enough if only one of these aspects of satisfaction are present. In their view, a liquid with which one is pleased will affect hechsher even if he is not pleased that it wet his food, and a liquid with which one is not pleased will affect hechsher as long as he is pleased that it wet his food. See Rav, Rosh, and Rosh to Mishnah 1:1, Rashi Chulin 16a, Rashbam, Bav Basra 97a, and Ravad Hilchos Tumas Ochlin 12:2. Our elucidation will follow the second view, which is the opinion of Rav. Other rules of hechsher. Produce that grows from the ground or tree cannot receive hechsher while it is still attached to its place of growth. See Chulin 118b. Thus, if produce becomes wet while still attached, it remains unable to become tameh even after It is detached unless it is wetted again, or it is still moist from the original wetting. See Tosfos Bava Metzia 22a. Just as produce that is attached to the ground cannot receive hechsher, so too a liquid that is attached to the ground cannot cause hechsher. Thus, for example, if one washes a food in a river, it does not become prepared for tuma. However, once the food is removed from the body of attached water, the water that still clings to the food does cause hechsher, since that water is no longer attached to the ground. See chapter 4, Mishnah 6. Once a food is wetted, it remains prepared for tuma, even after it has dried. See Rambam, Hilchas, Tumas Ochlin 1:2, Rashi Vaikra 11:34, see Bava Metzia 22a. It is not necessary for the entire food to be wetted. If even a small part becomes wet, the entire food is prepared for tuma. See Arach Laner, Kesaros 15b, Tiferes Yaakov Chulin 118b, Or Agra, Or Chaim 158:4.